This is so great to be up here. As folks have mentioned, I've been coming to these events since I was a little kid, as early as I can remember, like in my grade school years. So to be standing up here is very, very exciting, a little bit scary, and a little bit weird, I'll have to be honest, but really, really happy, and thank you CPAC for inviting me here today. So, as they mentioned, my name is Jason Qu. I was born in Beijing. We immigrated to Canada when I was a wee toddler. I attended Markham District High School and then the University of Toronto, studying anthropology and equity studies. And now I'm in my second year at Harvard Law School out of a 3-year degree. It's been a fantastic experience. And I'm going to talk about how I got into Harvard Law School and the kind of traits and personalities that I've seen in my classmates at Harvard, and hopefully answer your questions at the end. So if there's any issue that I don't address or anything that I say that you want to know more about, please don't hesitate to ask questions. I'm really, really excited to hear what you in the audience want to know about and want to hear about. It's been seems like a long time since I was standing in your shoes, in high school, trying to make these really, really important decisions. And so it's great if you remind me what some of your key concerns are. Okay, so how did I get into Harvard? There's just one tip. Are you ready? This is my big secret. Okay, I got my digital clicker here. I got into law school by growing vegetables. That is my secret. I recommend that you all do it, or do your own thing, but I'll tell you more about it. I mean, there's a story here. So, in my high school, first year of university, I was in class, and my professor told us in the class, they said, your assignment is to create a project, a campaign or initiative or an organization that will change the world for the better. That was the whole project. It was a little bit daunting. For the project, my group decided that we were interested in food and sustainability and the role that technology and business can play in creating a more sustainable, safe, equitable food system. We had a lot of great ideas, a lot of big ideas, and we wrote this paper and did this presentation. And then afterwards, when we were done, we thought, wow, why did we spend all this time coming up with these amazing ideas and we're just going to leave it in the classroom? We should actually do this if we spend so much time thinking about doing this. And we got all excited, and we did. We started a community garden in Christie Pitts Park in Toronto. It became very successful. It's there to this day. It really allowed people in the neighborhood who wanted to grow their own food and who didn't have their own land. They could come and they could do it in our garden, and we created a system for it. That got me really interested in food, and it plugged me into this student community on campus that was also working on these issues. So I'll show you some of the stuff that we were doing. I met a group of really great engineering students, master's students and PhD students in civil engineering. Their interest was on water systems and ways to make clean water available in the developing world. A side interest that they had was how to develop and implement rooftop vegetable growing systems. They looked across the city of Toronto, they said, we have so many of these unused, empty rooftops, it's unproductive space. What can we do to maximize the utility of this space? They came up with this very, very amazing container gardening system, a lightweight, modular system. It was self-watering, and they said we can grow hundreds and hundreds of pounds of vegetables with this system if we could just try it out. So they did. So we created over 3 years, it's still existing, we created this system and we built it by hand. We started growing stuff in it. This is on a rooftop of the Galbraith Engineering Building in the University of Toronto. We'll keep going. It's lightweight, and it uses very little soil. It's really great. It waters itself. There's a lot of benefits that we found to growing vegetables on rooftops. You don't have to worry about bugs, because you're way up high and you're using containers, so the pest issues are a lot lower. They get more direct exposure to sunlight. When you're trying to grow food in a city, you have all the skyscrapers, all the shadows. That wasn't a problem. We had very, very efficient yields. And it ended up becoming a really, really fascinating, interesting system. We grew leafy greens, tomatoes, eggplants, watermelons. We did a little bit of everything, and just had a fantastic time. We weighed and tabulated everything that we grew, and at the end of the year, we created a kind of executive report summarizing our findings. This project has grown into the Food and Water Institute of the University of Toronto. Now they're a registered nonprofit organization, and their mission is to export this model to interested communities and institutions around the world. So, they set up what are these best practices, they've done all this research, they figured out how to make the system effective, and now they're trying to export their model, and there's a few, engineering PhDs, and that's their job. So, really, really cool stuff. That's us at the end of our first year, holding some beats. So, this got the university really interested. They thought, we were a bit hesitant about letting kids grow vegetables on the roof. I guess they were afraid that we would fall off and die, or maybe they were afraid that we would damage the roof or whatever. They were very, very worried. But when they saw the success of this system, they thought, actually, this is something that we're interested in. So in my last year at U of T, and then after I graduated, I was employed by the University of Toronto to act as a mediator between this sort of student initiative and the university itself. So my job became, the university had lots of land around campus that was being underutilized, that nobody cared about. So they said, hey, if we give you this space, will you grow vegetables in it in like a very ordered, structured way that we're okay with? We thought, yeah, that sounds awesome. So we took over some of these spaces, we pulled out all the dead stuff that was inside of them, we put up our signs, and we started these really interesting community gardens. Got some bok choy going on there. Keep going. Awesome. So for example, this was a good example. The university closed off a lot of the streets inside of the campus to make it pedestrian only, so no cars. And the way they were going to close it off is they were going to put these big pots to kind of block the traffic. And we thought, what are you going to put in those pots? And they said, oh, flowers. And we thought, oh, flowers. Flowers are so boring. So we convinced them to let us grow vegetables in the pots. We had over 10 of these kinds of projects by the end of my time at the university in a lot of different spaces. The university also owns an actual farm up in Caledon, and they let us also start a kind of full-scale project up there. This is fully volunteer-run. It was just students who were naturally interested in food, agriculture, gardening, whatever, a lot of different diverse interests coming together, and they were ecstatic that they had this opportunity at the university to do these sorts of projects. We found an abandoned greenhouse on campus that we retrofitted and then turned into a functional greenhouse after 25 years. And we also taught ourselves how to keep bees. This was another initiative, so in other rooftops around U of T now, there are fully functional commercial beehives where we keep bees and we kind of, make our own honey. And we sell it. They make a good profit off of it. So that's our product. Very in demand. You'll have a hard time getting it. We also did workshops and education and events and conferences around campus addressing some of the broader sustainability issues connected to food. So we recognized that there were a lot of environmental issues connected to food, a lot of commercial issues connected to food. Biotechnology is a huge issue in the society right now. So we used the gardening that we were doing as a platform to sort of engage people on these broader, very important social and economic issues. And they were also very, very successful stuff. And this is another construction job we were doing. This was about composting. So, I mean, you can grow vegetables, that's one thing. Another focus that we had was on food waste. The Toronto municipal composting system is not extremely efficient. And we thought, what if we can divert some of the food waste coming out of the university, turn it into soil, use it to grow our vegetables? The university loved that idea, go figure. So, okay, so we had all these vegetables, now what are we gonna do with them? So we partnered with another group on campus that already existed called the Hot Yam. It was a student-run campus restaurant And we said, if we grow this stuff, will you sell it for us? And I said, of course we will. So that was a whole new mission in my life. I became one of the managers of the Hot Yam. And every day we would serve lunch to about 250 people using only organic, local ingredients on a non-profit basis. So it was sort of a social enterprise, a non-profit business. We got a 5-star review in Now magazine that I'm very, very proud of, because they said one of my soups was the most delicious he's had all year. Yeah, coconut and beets. There you go. So, okay. And then that became a very successful spin-off concept on its own. So the takeaway, why am I telling all this? Honestly, and I'm not even kidding, this is what got me into Harvard Law School, bar none. They loved it. Throughout the entire application process, we could not stop talking about this stuff. And when you think about it, there's a lot of dimensions that become very attractive to a law school admissions official when you're looking at this kind of thing. At the beginning, it's very surprising and very interesting, and very unique and a little bit weird. That is very important. You have a law school admissions official reading 6,000 applications every year. It's a lot of the people are very hard to distinguish from each other. When I met that official the first day at Harvard Law School, she said, "Oh, Jason, you're the vegetable guy." She knew me. She had no problem remembering me out of the 6,000 other people that she met, and I was happy to be the vegetable guy because I was at Harvard Law School, so that was fine. The second thing, though, is that it tells you a lot about character and about your skills and your personality. And that's going to be a focus of this talk. How do you express your character through extracurricular activities? They really appreciated the leadership positions that this program entailed. At one point, I was managing 2 co-op staff students, 1 research student, and over 40 volunteers. We had fundraising, we had budgeting. I mean, there's organizational stuff that has to happen for this stuff to happen. They were very attracted by that idea. They were attracted by the way that I was able to work with the university administration. They started being very not enthusiastic about what was going on. We were, digging up their land and planting vegetables where they didn't want them. Eventually, though, they came around and they saw that this had educational value. They saw that this was a co-curricular activity. People started writing their papers about what we were doing. People started to get classroom credit for participating in what we were doing. People in the business school started getting credit for writing a business plan for what we were doing. We were able to bridge in all these different educational elements, and the university was shocked, and they just loved it. And the last part is this kind of educational element. It's this ability to take a really weird idea and make real-world connections and get people interested and excited. So they thought all of this was fantastic, and they were really, really interested. So I know a lot of you aren't in university yet. A lot of you are high school students and the parents of high school students, and you're thinking, Jason, slow down. I care about getting into university. I'm not thinking right now about what I'm doing there. Tell me how to ace the SATs. I never wrote the SATs, so I can't tell you how to do that. And also, I believe that it's never too early to start planning for what your university experience is going to be like. I know that when you're thinking about applying to university, that's all you can think about, but start thinking also about what you're going to do and the impact that you're going to make when you get there. It's never too early. And so there's 2 related points to that. Well, first of all, the truth is nowadays that getting into university is not the end, it's really the beginning, right? So, university can lead to graduate schools, it can lead to professional schools, it can lead to time in the workplace. Whatever you do, people are going to scrutinize very, very closely your university success. So, getting into university, important, but university success, the process, the learning that happens there, much more important. So that's my first point. When it comes to university success, what you do is much more important than where you go. And, that's not to say that where you go isn't important. Being at the University of Toronto gave me incredible benefits, right? Being in a city, being in a school with immense resources, and very creative professors who were able to partner with me. So my needs, university needs, there was a great match. But it was making the most out of that match that mattered.
It wasn't the fact that it was the University of Toronto, it was the very specific benefits that I got from that context. And I want to just give you a good example here. These are the 161 different schools that are represented in Harvard's entering class, Harvard Law School's entering class this year. Okay, 101 schools. It's not just Ivy League schools that get into Harvard Law, right? You have every school in the world, it seems like, is down there, including a bunch of Canadian institutions. I see Concordia, I see University of Alberta, UBC, University of Toronto, Queen's, Western, York, they're all on there. One class, just this year, this many Canadian schools, right? So there's a wide breadth. Of course, Harvard and Yale, they're all on there, but it's really important. I was talking to my admissions official, the Dean of Admissions a few weeks ago. I said, how much do you care about the name of the school on the top of that applicant's profile? She said, I barely even look at it. I look at your grades, I look at your extracurriculars. The name of the school is not a factor for me, straight up. Okay, well there you go. So, and I just want to note that that's very similar for med schools too. Harvard Medical School has 166 spots, and last year they had 86 different undergraduate institutions represented. So they were able to represent 86 schools and 166 applicants. That's pretty amazing. Grades are just the beginning, and focusing too much on grades can make you a weak overall candidate. And I really want to stress that. So if there's one big takeaway that we have here, it's this message. And we'll talk more about what it means to be a good all-around candidate. Let's do that by looking at what the actual admission considerations are for graduate programs. I'm going to talk about medical school and I'm going to talk about law school. But it's a similar dynamic for any sort of postgraduate program, and it's a similar dynamic for the workplace. I mean, they're not going to ask, they always ask you for, you know, your grades and a resume. They care about what you've done, so it's similar dynamics. But let's go through law school first. So they look at your academic records, your grades, okay, your GPA. They look at your LSAT score, or if it's in another context, any kind of standardized test score. Personal statement, okay, resume, yep, reference letters, and the interview. So there's 6 factors there. 2 of them are academic factors, your grades and your law school admission test scores. I will not be talking a ton about how to get great grades and a great LSAT score. I mean, you work really hard, you study, you make good decisions. We can talk about that in the Q&A. My focus is on these last 4. It's 4 out of 6. What are people trying to look for in these 4 factors? Why 4? Why is it so extensive? Not only do they want you to talk about yourself, they want someone else to talk about you. Not only do they want to hear about your resume, they want to ask you about your resume in person. I'm telling you, this is also interesting. Starting next year, Harvard Law School will be doing their interviews via Skype. It used to be just phone, now it's Skype. They literally want to see your face as you give them this information. It's very, very intimate. It's very personal. Very personal. Law schools just don't think they have enough information about you just looking at the grades and your numbers. They want to know you as a person. We can turn to the medical school context next as well. And it's very similar considerations, although medical schools tend to be much more explicit about what they're looking for. So we got academics, MCAT scores, sure. Applicant essay, a list of extracurricular activities, a list of summer jobs, a list of relevant life experiences, a list of experiences specific in the healthcare field, letters of evaluation, and an interview. So you see where the focus is here, right? People, if you just focus on grades and you don't develop and plan and very intentionally cultivate these other elements of your application process, you can't be a strong all-around applicant. And that's what we want to do. All right. So, what are they looking for when we're talking about these non-academic factors? And I'm going to focus on stuff like the personal statement, the letter of recommendation, the resume, and the interview. And I think in the Q&A, if you want to ask me specifically about what each of these elements entails, we can definitely have a really good conversation about it. But here's the kind of framework that I look at it from. They want to know if you have the personality, skills, and character traits necessary to succeed at school and also after school. We're talking about the graduate school context, right? We're talking about medical school, an MBA program, graduate school. They don't just care about how smart you are in school. They want you to be something that the institution can be proud of after you graduate. So Harvard, when Barack Obama won the election, Harvard Law School went nuts. They loved it. Why? It's an alumni, not just, he's brilliant, he was the chief editor of Harvard Law Review, but here he is, the president of the United States, making a very, very strong real-world impact. This year, the election, both candidates are Harvard Law School graduates. Harvard couldn't be happier. It's about taking that academic success and trying to predict whether you have the real-world skills to turn that into real-world success. Okay, so that's the message that we're trying to communicate. Okay. I want to come to a very specific example from the medical school context to help you, give you some good perspective, I think. This is University of Toronto Medical School application process. So I told you before, they want a personal statement, they want all this. They also ask you to write a 250-word answer to each of these 4 questions. And they're tough questions, all right? How have you used critical thinking to solve a problem? Describe an opportunity to respond to a community need, local, national, or global. Tell us about a conflict that you've had with another person and how you maintained a respectful relationship. Tell us about a time you had difficulty completing a project or endeavor and what strategies you get over the hurdle. In the med school context, and also in the law school context, where they don't ask these questions specifically, but they care, they want to know. I've heard that these answers matter almost more than anything else when it comes to distinguishing applicants. Anyone in this room can come up with some sort of answer to these questions. Most of those answers will not be very interesting. I mean, when you hear a question like this, a lot of people's reactions is, oh, what does this person want to hear? What is the most kind of attractive answer I can come up with? But people who have real-world experiences, when they read these questions, they know right away, oh, I know what I'm going to write about for the critical thinking example. Oh, I've been working on a community need for the last 3 years of my life. They're obvious, right? You don't have to struggle. You don't have to make anything up. You don't have to come up with something that's inauthentic, right? It comes right from the heart. So take this as any other kind of exam. You can prepare for these questions. And the way you prepare for these questions is by starting right where you are, whether you're in grade school, high school, university, doesn't matter. Start cultivating the kind of life experiences that are going to allow you to answer questions like this. So I thought this was a great kind of concrete example for what people want to know about you when it comes to character. Okay, so let's move on to the 3 C's. This is not the entire picture, but I think this is a good way of thinking about some of the categories of traits that people are looking for. The first one is character, obviously. And by this I mean personality and character traits like leadership, integrity, responsibility, diligence, empathy, patience. You can find lists of these that are, 50, 60 words long. That's a good thing. That means that everyone in this room has character traits that distinguish them, that they are particularly strong at, and that they are interested in developing and interested in talking about. So I'm not going to tell you what your character traits are. Figure that out for yourself, and then find extracurricular activities that express that character. No one wants to hear, I am a very diligent worker. I mean, that's boring, and I can't believe you, and there's just no substance to that claim. But if you want to prove that you're a hard worker and you planned a conference in your 4th year of university that involved getting together speakers and fundraising and advertising, it took you 6 months and it was a huge success, you can talk about that experience and use it as evidence of your character traits, right? So we're talking about where is the evidence of your character. Really important, okay. Next one, we want to talk about creativity. And this is something that's become very clear to me at my time at Harvard Law School. Above all, professionals are creative problem solvers. All right, lawyers solve legal problems, doctors solve medical problems, accountants solve accounting problems, engineers solve engineering problems. We're problem solvers. And maybe the #1 kind of skill that you need to prove that you have is that you are able to be a problem solver. What is involved in that? It involves listening to what problems people have, and then it's about using creativity, open-mindedness, critical thinking to figure out what the best solutions to any problem is, right? So demonstrate that you have real-world problem-solving skills, thinking outside the box, resourcefulness, I like this idea of creativity and problem solving because it's very easy to demonstrate. All you need is one good idea, and to communicate that one good idea, that one interesting perspective, and the person who's reading your admissions essay knows automatically, yes, that person has it. You don't have to say, I'm creative. You say, look at my perspective on this social issue. Look at what I tried to do here at my school to solve, I don't know, maybe there were a lot of well, this is a real world example actually. At the University of Toronto, there was an intersection that had a lot of bike accidents, more than anywhere else on campus. It is becoming a real problem. And so some students created a student task force on bike safety, installed cameras, installed people to just watch that intersection for 2 days, figure out what the problems were. Then they installed all this stuff there to try to make bike safety more, try to increase bike safety, extremely effective. By the next year, bike accidents in that intersection had gone down 75%. So, I mean, great, like, just something that small. It doesn't have to be world hunger, although it can be, and there's ways to work on that issue. It would be something as small as a problematic intersection. It shows that you have initiative. It shows that you have planning ability. It shows that you have follow-through ability. Okay, awesome. And then the last one is this idea of citizenship. What issues do you care about? What impact do you want to have on the world? And how will going to this particular school help you? A school doesn't want you to go there so that you can say, I went to Harvard Law School. A school is happy for you to say, Harvard Law School is a tool for me to accomplish something greater in the world. That's what they want to hear. And they want you to have a good vision of what that actually entails. So you need to start thinking about now, as a citizen of my community, and of my country, and of my society, and of the world, what are the important issues that I want to contribute to, and how am I going to make that contribution? Okay, so, just some really concrete tips. I've talked about sort of these concepts and ideas. What are some concrete tips? Here's some things that I found really, really useful. So the first one I talked about before, it's obvious, it's to solve a problem. Do it. Whether you're in high school, whatever, do it. My first problem-solving memory is back in 2nd grade. There was a lot of garbage on the playing field at our school. And some friends and I, we started picking up the garbage and then like bringing it to the teachers and being like, come on guys, there's tons of garbage. And they started giving us candy every time we did it, and it turned into this like fantastic candy producing business. That was awesome. Starting from then, I mean, problem solving has been a focus. It's something I just find so rewarding, and you can find it really rewarding too. So find a problem, solve it, different scales. And when I say solve, I don't mean you actually have to solve it, but you do have to engage with it. So there's different ways of doing this. If we're looking at big global issues, world hunger is something that we've talked a lot about at the University of Toronto. You don't have to solve it, but there's so many organizations and initiatives that exist today working on that issue. Plug yourself into those initiatives. Play a leadership role in the initiatives that already exist. But at the same time, you might find an interesting problem that no one is working on yet. And I think this whole gardening, space-saving, space optimizing issue was one example of that. No one had been trying this before, and we started something new. It doesn't matter. You can start something new. You can work on something that already exists. Just work on a problem. Okay, number 2 is take on a leadership role. Leadership is something that people talk a lot about, but it's hard to convince people that they can do it. And I just want to tell you that leadership is actually very, very easy if you have the desire to do it. I mean, having this sort of skill is one thing, but having people recognize that you have skill and vision is another, and it's a really important skill to have for the rest of your life. So what leadership shows you is that it's connected to interpersonal skills. People say when they survey CEOs or when they survey college officials, what they say the most important skill, if they had to rank one, was interpersonal skills. Leadership demonstrates that. It means that you can work with people, it means that you can lead people, but it also means that you can follow people. I mean, leadership is complicated idea. Taking on leadership roles is one of the most important things you can do. If you can't find a project that will let you take a leadership role, find a way to do it on your own initiative. There's unlimited opportunities, especially in the university context, where the culture is very conducive to student leadership and student engagement. Okay, this third one is something that I think, especially in Chinese immigrant communities, maybe families aren't talking about enough, and it's the importance of actually working and getting a job outside of the classroom. When Harvard is doing its admissions process, especially in the postgraduate context, everyone has great grades, okay? Everyone has great grades. 75% of people who go to Harvard Law School spend between 1 to 3 years after college working in the real world before going to law school. 75%. And that's no accident. It's because getting work experience is a concrete benefit. There is literally no harm in getting a good job after college for a little while, doing some real world work, and putting that at the top of your resume. It immediately takes you out of the pool of people who don't have that experience, and immediately gives you so many more things to talk about. So what am I talking about specifically? When you're in university, we're talking about summers, obviously. You can use your summers to do really interesting and important work. It could be volunteer work, it could be unpaid interning, it could be research work, especially for people in a technical field, helping a professor do research or doing your own research independently. I know that every school that my friends went to had a way for you to do that on your own. So that's one idea. But I really want to stress the importance of trying and seeing if you can work after you graduate, even if your parents aren't a fan. My mom was not a fan. My mom wanted me to go straight through. She said, why are you wasting your time? Get to Harvard, go right away, go, go, go. But I think slowing down and doing that year of actual real world work was extremely important. It helped me figure out who I was, and it helped me put together a really great story, a really interesting story for where I was coming from. So take time to work. This is important in the legal context. It's really important in medicine, especially nowadays. Really strong candidates now will take time either to do a master's or just to do research work with a professor after they graduate. It really sets you apart. Or working with NGOs, work in development, I mean, lots of stuff. Really, really important. Okay. And then, so the last one, kind of the overarching idea, is to develop your vision, right? You need to be able to tell someone what you're about in one sentence, ideally, maybe two. But 1 or 2 sentences, that's all you get at the top. They need to understand what your interests are, what your values are, what your contributions are going to be right away. And that's about having a vision. I want to make the world better by doing this, or I want to do this in a corporate context because I think I have a standard of excellence or a perspective that's very unique. Whatever it is, it's a unique vision about yourself. Work on it. Awesome. Okay. So closing thoughts. I love my time at Harvard Law School. I knew going in that the academic experience was going to be phenomenal, and it really is. But what I realized very, very quickly is how much work a school like Harvard puts into creating a class. So what I mean is, when admissions people are doing their work at a place like Harvard, they're building a diverse group of people, not a bunch of individuals that are all just generally excellent, but a diverse group of people that can really focus their attention and their efforts and their passion on specific initiatives and kind of shoot them out and make them really effective. And it's just, it hits you right away. The first day you get to Harvard, people ask, what have you done? They don't care where you went to school. They don't care what your grades are. They ask, what do you do? What have you done? And I have a friend who says, oh, I started this business. Another friend say, oh, I worked as a consultant for 4 years. And they have another friend saying, I taught high school for 4 years. And one of my friends was Barack Obama's personal secretary in the White House. I mean, you have people with incredible resumes coming in. And I was like, oh, I'm the vegetable guy. But people loved that. I mean, they thought it was great. Just as a side note of vindication, there is actually now at Harvard a new course about law and food. 20 spaces, and the wait list is 200 people. So I mean, hey, it's a real thing. So I mean, you get these people with their stories, and they come at it, and you're just so impressed, and you think, how did Harvard find these people? And that's not the right question. The question is, these people, how did they find Harvard? Right? It's these people who have very, very strong, focused, interesting backgrounds that go to a school like Harvard, not the other way around. So everyone in the audience, I mean, you're all driven, amazing people, I know it. You all have a very, very strong support system. You have parents who are dedicated to academic excellence and success. One other thing that I want you to think about, though, is what is your personal, unique contribution going to be? What is your vision going to be? What is your story going to be? That's the kind of people that we need in the world, generally, and that's definitely the kind of people that they want at a school like Harvard Law School. Okay, thank you so much.